All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to crack open the science behind something we all see but maybe don't fully understand: a turbulent, muddy river. We're diving deep into a fascinating PhD thesis by Ravi Ranjan Sinha to see how we can finally start to model the chaos that's hiding in plain sight. You look at a river and it seems pretty straightforward. It's just water flowing from one place to another. But under the surface, it is an absolute whirlwind of activity. It's carrying tons of sand, silt, and clay downstream. So the big question for scientists and engineers has always been, how exactly does it do that? And more importantly, how can we predict it? So the core idea we're dealing with is called sediment suspension. You can think of it as this constant battle going on in the water. You've got the river's turbulent energy, these chaotic swirls, pushing particles up, while gravity is always trying to pull them back down. Understanding this fight, this balance, is really the key to everything else we're going to talk about. Here's the journey we're about to take. We'll start with the river's turbulent secret. Then, we'll look at why the old ways of modeling this just weren't cutting it. After that, we'll get to the big breakthrough, what's called the non-local leap, and the new mathematical toolkit that came with it. And of course, we'll see if it actually works in the real world, before wrapping up with why any of this matters to you and me. Okay, first up, rivers they're the arteries of our planet, right? They carve out canyons and build deltas just by moving around massive amounts of dirt and rock. But that chaotic, swirling nature of turbulence has made it incredibly difficult to pin down exactly how they manage it. To get a handle on this, scientists look at something called the concentration profile. The easiest way to think about it is like taking a vertical snapshot of the river. You're asking, where is all the sediment? Is most of the sand scraping along the bottom? Or is it all mixed up, even near the surface? That profile tells the story of the forces at play in the water. So, for the better part of a century, our understanding was based on models that were, pretty good, but not good enough. They worked in some situations, but the more scientists looked, the more they started seeing things that these old models just could not explain. There was a huge blind spot. And here's what they were seeing. In labs and in real rivers, it wasn't just one simple pattern. They saw four completely different shapes. You have the classic type I, where it's densest at the bottom and thins out as you go up. Simple enough. But then they saw these other, much weirder profiles. A plume-like one with a bulge of sediment in the middle, a type 2 that drops off really sharply, and even the strange convex shape. The old models had no answer for these. And that right there is the core of the problem. The traditional models, some going all the way back to 1937, were only built to predict that one simple type I profile. They were completely blind to the other three. It's like having a weather app that can only predict sunny days. Not very useful, right? So what had to change was the entire concept of how things mix in the water. The old idea, local mixing, basically assumed that particles just kind of nudge their immediate neighbors. Think of it like passing a note down a row of desks, one person to the next. But the new insight, non-local mixing, realized that's not what's happening. Powerful turbulent bursts can grab a particle and launch it on a huge, unpredictable leap. It's like you folded that note into a paper airplane and just threw it clear across the classroom. A totally different game. This idea of a non-local leap is the absolute key that unlocks this whole mystery. It was a complete paradigm shift, forcing scientists to rethink how particles actually get thrown around in the chaotic flow. And it's what finally allowed them to explain those other bizarre profiles. This image just illustrates the idea perfectly. A particle isn't just gently nudged from its spot to the one right next to it. No way. A powerful eddy can grab it from the riverbed and hurl it way up the water column in a single explosive movement. This is a fundamentally different type of transport. And the thesis puts it so clearly. It says particles jump beyond their representative elementary volume, which is just a fancy way of saying they jump way outside their immediate neighborhood. A single particle can literally leap from the bottom of the river all the way to the surface in a flash. This isn't a slow, grinding process. It's a series of wild, long-distance jumps. Okay, so if the physics of what's happening is totally different, you're going to need a different language to describe it, right? To model these huge, non-local leaps, researchers had to reach for a much more specialized and, frankly, more powerful mathematical toolkit. And that toolkit is called fractional calculus. Now, don't let the name scare you off. All you need to know is this. Regular old calculus is great for describing smooth, predictable changes. Fractional calculus, on the other hand, is tailor-made for systems that have weird memory effects and big, sudden leaps, which is the perfect description of non-local mixing. So, armed with this new math, the researchers built two incredibly powerful models. The first one, the space fractional kinetic model, was the one that could finally, for the first time, predict all four of those sediment profiles we saw earlier. But the second one, called GFARE, is just amazing. It acts like a master key. It's so flexible that it can actually replicate 14 different older models just by tweaking its settings. Now, this all sounds fantastic in theory, but as we know, the ultimate test for any scientific model is, does it match reality? Does this new fractional approach actually hold up when you compare it to real data from the lab and, more importantly, from actual rivers? All right, let's look at the proof. Here we've got data from an experiment with water flowing in a circular pipe. See those little hexagons? That's the actual measured data from the lab. And that solid line drawn right through them? That's the prediction from the new model. I mean, come on, the fit is just, it's perfect. And it wasn't a one-time thing. They tried it again, this time with a flow in a square pipe. So different shape, different conditions, but the result was exactly the same. The model's predictions line up beautifully with the real-world data. This thing is versatile. But this is the ultimate test. Forget the clean, controlled lab setups. This is data from the wild, from the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers. And even in the messy, chaotic reality of a massive river system, the model's predictions just nail the field measurements. This is a huge, huge validation. So we've got this powerful new theory, and it matches reality. But why do we care? Well, it turns out that accurately predicting how a river moves sediment has massive consequences for our safety, our economy, and the environment. This is not just for the textbooks. Think about it. This knowledge is critical. It means we can design bridges and dams that are far less likely to get washed away by erosion. It means we can better predict how a chemical spill might spread through our waterways. We can even make industrial pipelines that carry mixtures more efficient. This is a fundamental leap forward for anyone who has to engineer things in, on, or around a river. So really, the big takeaway is this. By finally cracking the code of a river's non-local secrets, those big, chaotic particle jumps, we can move from just guessing to actually predicting its behavior. And that power to predict is what helps us build a safer, more resilient world. And it leaves you with a really fascinating thought, doesn't it? This whole approach of using fractional maths to model these non-local events, it's not just for rivers. If we can now accurately model this kind of complex, chaotic system, what else is out there that we've been getting wrong? What's the next great secret we can finally unlock?